This story is so much more fantastical than any of the resurrection stories you'd find in the modern Bible.
New eyes, not human eyes, eyes of machines, like the AI reading it now. A chill spread through the room when the translation appeared. The scribe wasn't writing for his time. He was writing for ours. The tablet predicted a moment when humans would use tools beyond sight to study the heavens. And when that moment came, a shadow would return. Not just an eclipse, a cycle reset. Ancient astronomers prepared with rituals and kings. We prepare with satellites and sensors. Yet the fear is the same. What if the sky is not just beautiful, but a clock counting down? Today, scientists track eclipses with math, satellites, and digital models. We see them as natural events, predictable, harmless, ordinary. But the ancients did not. To them, the sky was a warning system, a code, a mirror of fate. And now, as AI unlocks the oldest writing on Earth, we face a strange truth. The first message ever carved for the future was not advice, or law, or story. It was a warning about the sky, and about a moment when humans would watch it with new eyes. Now think about this. We live in the only age where every eclipse is tracked. Every cosmic shift is measured. Machines study the heavens, and ancient text is awakening. The tablet ends with a final line, broken but clear. Prepare. Prepare for what? Maybe the scribes didn't fear the dark. Maybe they feared what comes after it returns. And this tablet is only the first one AI has begun to read. A single page, hidden for 1,000 years, buried under 2 layers of ink in the Vatican's vaults. And when AI finally saw it, it revealed a version of the Bible scholars had long believed was lost forever. Not a theory, not a rumor, a real physical page from an early gospel, scraped clean, rewritten, and forgotten. Until now. This page didn't just survive time, it broke out of it. Because underneath the later writing, faint strokes began to glow under multispectral light. And what emerged shocked everyone who studies ancient scripture. This wasn't the polished Bible most people know today. This was older, rougher, closer to the spoken word of Jesus. A Syriac translation, built from the language people actually spoke in the first centuries. A piece of scripture erased by hand and resurrected by machines. But the question is, who erased it and why? To understand why this page matters, you need to know what it really was. A palimpsest. In the ancient world, parchment wasn't cheap. It came from animal skin. Every page took labor, time, and life. When scribes ran out of space, they scraped ink away and wrote again, sometimes twice. Scripture layered over scripture. History stacked like ghosts. This page held 3 lives. The newest writing sat on top. Harmless prayers copied centuries after Rome fell. Under that, another text. And beneath that, barely clinging to the parchment, the forgotten gospel words. A fragment of the book of Matthew. But not the version you find in most modern Bibles. This was from the Old Syriac tradition. Older than Latin, older than many Greek copies, closer to the language Jesus spoke. It was never meant to return, never meant to be seen again. So how did AI find it when humans failed for centuries? The discovery didn't begin with a shovel, or a monk, or even a scholar turning pages by hand. It began with light. Not ordinary light, but multispectral imaging. Cameras that fire invisible wavelengths into old parchment, pulling back layers the human eye can't see. Every stroke of ancient ink reacts differently, even when scraped away centuries ago. To the naked eye, the page looked blank, quiet, ordinary. But under ultraviolet, faint letters rose like ashes in sunlight. Shapes formed, curves, ancient Syriac script, the language spoken in early Christian communities across the Middle East. And then came the AI model. Trained to detect the tiny patterns humans miss, half-strokes, broken serif tips, pressure marks from a scribe's tool. The machine didn't invent the words. It revealed what was already there, line by line, word by word, until a new version of Matthew emerged, one that scholars had only dreamed existed. But what did it actually say, and why did it matter so much?
Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss inspiring discoveries of faith, archaeology, and prophecy. Like and share this video to a friend or family. Your support helps us to spread this word of grace.
At first, the scholars expected familiar lines, words they knew, phrases they'd seen in every Bible for centuries. But then came a detail, tiny, almost ordinary, yet powerful enough to send ripples through biblical history. In most modern versions of Matthew, Jesus' followers walk through fields on the Sabbath, pick grain, and eat. Simple, plain. But here, in the resurrected Syriac text, one more action appeared. They began to pick the grain, rub it in their hands, and eat. A gesture, so small, so human. Yet this motion, rubbing grain, matters, because to ancient critics, that counted as work on the Sabbath, and it matches a detail preserved in the Gospel of Luke, but missing from many later manuscripts. This wasn't a polished church text. It was raw, spoken, earthy, a memory from people who were there, or one step from those who were. But if one detail survived, what else had been erased? To see why this discovery shook scholars, you must understand where this text came from. Not from Rome, not from later church editors polishing theology and smoothing stories. This fragment came from the Old Syriac tradition, one of the earliest streams of the gospel ever written down. A time when Christian communities prayed, preached, and argued in the languages closest to Jesus' world. Greek carried the message west, but Syriac, a form of Aramaic, carried it east into deserts, monasteries, and mountains. It was spoken by traders, villagers, and monks, people who lived closer to the dust roads of the first century than many later church scribes ever could. Most Old Syriac texts vanished, destroyed, buried, or overwritten by newer versions approved by church councils long after the apostles were gone. But this one page survived, because someone chopped it apart and stuffed it into a book binding. A rescue by accident, or fate. And if it survived, what else is still hiding in plain sight? Long before AI, two scholars rode across the Sinai desert with a mission that seemed absurd at the time. They weren't soldiers. They weren't priests. They were twin sisters from Scotland, Agnes Smith-Lewis and Margaret Dunlop Gibson. Armed with notebooks, early cameras, and rare skill in ancient languages, they trekked to St. Catherine's Monastery, one of the oldest libraries on Earth. Inside those stone walls, lit by oil lamps and centuries of prayer, they found manuscripts no Western scholar had touched in 1,000 years. One night, Agnes tilted a page toward the light and froze. Letter shadows, faint ghosts under the ink. The first glimpse of an erased gospel in Syriac. That discovery shook biblical scholarship, but even they didn't see every layer. Some writing was too faint, too hidden, too wounded by time. They opened the door. AI has now walked through it. But the sisters' find was only the beginning, because the Vatican held a secret they never reached. For decades, scholars searched monasteries and archives, hoping another Old Syriac gospel might surface. Most found nothing. But deep in the Vatican library, a place locked to outsiders for centuries, sat a harmless-looking prayer book from the Middle Ages. Simple, worn, quiet. No one knew that inside its binding, a different book was hiding. Someone long ago had cut apart a much older manuscript, folded the leaves, trimmed the edges, and stuffed them inside as reinforcement. A common medieval practice, a disaster for history, but this time, a miracle.
Because that destruction preserved it. A single gospel leaf, once full-sized, now chopped and shaved thin, yet still holding ancient ink buried under two newer layers. In 2020, it was digitized. In 2023, AI exposed the forgotten text beneath. A page from Matthew, closer to the first Christians than most scripture the world reads today. But why was this page erased, and who decided it should disappear? No one scraped this page by accident. In the ancient world, parchment was precious, but not that precious. Scribes didn't erase scripture unless they believed the old text was no longer needed or no longer safe. So why wipe this gospel page away? Three possibilities rise like shadows. First, newer, approved versions became dominant. The Old Syriac text didn't match the later standardized Bible. It was replaced, silenced by uniformity. Second, political protection. As Christianity spread, theology hardened. Differences became dangers. A phrase here, a gesture there, enough to stir debate, or worse, suspicion. Third, pure survival. Monks reused pages to save newer prayers, unaware 1,000 years later machines would drag forgotten scripture back to life. Whatever the reason, someone scraped these words off intentionally, and they expected them to stay gone forever. But now that they're back, how do scholars react when history refuses to stay buried? When experts compared the resurrected words to other ancient texts, something remarkable happened. The page did not stand alone. Its phrasing, rhythm, and tiny differences matched the oldest known Syriac gospel manuscripts, texts found in the Sinai desert and preserved by chance. Line by line, it walked in step with a stream of Christianity older than many church traditions, older than most surviving Bibles. This wasn't a rogue version, not a mistake, not a fringe edit. It was part of an early chain, one that echoed spoken faith, not polished theology. More direct, more human, more like memory than manuscript. And when scholars realized they were hearing a voice from the earliest Christian world, a voice nearly erased, they did not debate, they did not argue online. They simply sat in silence. Because if one page can return, how many more lie waiting in monasteries, libraries, and bindings, untouched by time? For now. For years, people thought ancient scripture was a closed door. The pages found, the words known, the story finished. They were wrong. Because now, machines can peel back ink like layers of time. They can see text scraped off by monks 1,000 years ago. They can read strokes human eyes can no longer recognize. And they are just getting started. Across the world, libraries hold tens of thousands of manuscripts that were burned, washed, trimmed, or overwritten. Most have never been scanned. Many hide erased writing. Some may hold more pieces of forgotten gospels or early teachings we have never seen. We are not losing history. We are rewinding it. And somewhere, sealed in a monastery vault, or stitched into a book binding in a forgotten archive, another page waits, silent, buried, sure that no one will ever read it again, until the light finds it and the machine listens. So the question now isn't, what did we just discover? It's, what happens when the rest of it comes back?